What's up, guys? Today I want to talk about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. Now, this game was announced like forever ago, and I remember they dropped a video the same day that Nicktoons dropped a video, and everyone was hyped because Nicktoons announced that April O'Neil was going to be playable for their Nicktoons game the same day that the Ninja Turtle game announced that April would be playable in their game. Later on, they announced that Splinter would be playable, and it's very fun because typically 4-player beat 'em ups come with like 4 characters, and this one came with 6. So it's not out yet. And they also curiously announced the Cowabunga collection at the same time, which is all of the old games. And I'm really excited for both games. I'm actually like decently excited because the Cowabunga collection is even includes the Game Boy games. And typically these game collections don't come with like every single game, but this is pretty much every Konami game like made of Ninja Turtles. It has all the versions of Tournament Fighters, which is there's the NES, Super Nintendo, and Genesis version. It has Turtles in Time, the arcade version, the Super Nintendo version, and the Super Nintendo version might be one of the best Turtles games ever created. But the arcade version and the original arcade game both are 4-player co-op beat 'em ups. So the fact that we have 2 of the best 4-player beat 'em ups of all time. You know, I'm assuming with unlimited continues with online play, as well as online play with the fighting games as well. I mean, this is an insane package. But you know, like I said, it also has Hyperstone Heist, which is the Genesis like remake that like kind of changes things up from Turtles in Time. It kind of changes things. One of my friends grew up with Hyperstone Heist instead of Turtles in Time, so he didn't realize that Turtles in Time was even any different. He just grew up with Hyperstone Heist, and he's the only person I ever knew who even had Hyperstone Heist. Everyone I ever knew with a Genesis didn't even own that game. They had like Spider-Man, Separation Anxiety, or they had Streets of Rage or Golden Axe, obviously, but they never had the Turtles game. But a lot of my friends who had Super Nintendos had at least played Turtles in Time, and I remember renting it as a kid. I actually own it on Super Nintendo now. But, you know, that didn't happen until I was an adult. I saw it at a pawn shop for $30. I said, 30 fucking bucks? I'll buy it for 30 fucking bucks. This video, I've come back from the depths. I come back from the shadows to talk not about Smash, not about Multiverses or Nicktoons, not about Dragon Ball Z, but about Ninja Turtles. And I'm very excited. And the reason why I'm so excited has to do with who's making this game and what their inspiration is. Now, growing up, I think my favorite beat 'em up of all time. It's really hard to decide, but I think it was always Final Fight 3. Final Fight 3 just had so many moves and abilities that I was like, you know what, this has got to be the best one. And then after that, honestly, I really liked Super Double Dragon, and obviously I liked Streets of Rage 2 a lot, but I didn't really play Streets of Rage 2 religiously. So really, my favorite beat 'em ups were probably the Ninja Turtles games on the arcade, because the Ninja Turtles PS2 games made by I forgot. Oh, was it Konami? I think Konami did make the 3D games, but there's Ninja Turtle games on PS2 and GameCube and Xbox that are based on the 2000 show that was on like 4Kids, and that show was a lot closer to the comics and blah blah blah. It did its own thing, but that show made me fall in love with Ninja Turtles in a completely different way from the '89 show, because the '89 show, my love for it really just comes from those games, because my older brother had all the Ninja Turtle stuff, and we just had, I had all 3 Ninja Turtle games on NES thanks to my older brother, and those games are just fucking phenomenal. Turtles 3 is so good. All of them are worth playing, and again, they're all in the Cowabunga collection. So I guess my favorite beat 'em up was probably Final Fight 3, and then somewhere in second place would be like Streets of Rage 2 and possibly Super Double Dragon, which I know people clown on that game, but I think it's really fun in its own right, even though it's really slow and methodical. And I really liked Ninja Turtles Arcade. Besides that, I didn't really care. Like I love beat 'em ups, but they're all kind of similar. Alien vs Predator is really good too. One day, Castle Crashers came out, and that became my favorite beat 'em up of all time. I just was like, these guys get it. And, it was a beat 'em up game with so much love and heart put into it. And it really just captivated me. And I loved everything about it. I loved the RPG elements. It's like this is the future of beat 'em ups. But the problem is the beat 'em ups were just such a dying genre that even though such an amazing beat 'em up game came out, it didn't really matter. And I don't think that studio. Yes, I've played Pit People and I've played all their games, but I don't think any of their games have done as well as Castle Crashers. For me personally, I think it's the most solid, beautiful game. But also, it was the simplest because it's just a beat 'em up. But goddamn, was it such a beautiful beat 'em up? And then Scott Pilgrim came out. Now Scott Pilgrim paid huge tribute to one of my favorite games on the NES in general, River City Ransom. I think the game's called like Battle Street in Japan or something. Or no. It's called Battle Street in like Europe or something. But in Japan, it's part of the Kunio series. So obviously in America we have River City Girls, and River City Girls is like an unofficial sequel to River City Ransom, but it has to do with like the Kunio series, and the River City Girls stuff is like it's like the first attempt at making the Kunio and River City like two continuities kind of the same thing, because really they should have already been the same thing. They just kind of changed the colors of certain things for the American NES games to make it less Japanese and more relatable to like typical Americans. But yeah, whatever, who cares? But that game had features where you got money from beating people up, and then you could go to shops and pay for upgrades and new moves. And Scott Pilgrim, obviously, anyone who's played that game, as I just described that, like, oh yeah, that's Scott Pilgrim. Like, oh yeah, that's Scott Pilgrim. Scott Pilgrim is one of the most fun beat 'em ups ever, you know, and it's so cool because that game came out right when the movie came out, and it made me go back and buy all the books. I have reread all 6 books. I did that like last year. I enjoyed every second of it, and I did that whenever they re-released Scott Pilgrim on PS4 and Xbox One, which then allowed it to be on PS5. So really, I just played it on the PS5. And all the love that's come from Scott Pilgrim recently has been amazing. I love seeing Anamanaguchi play the song Black Sheep from Scott Pilgrim, but they used Hatsune Miku to do the vocals, because anyone can just use Hatsune Miku. And I love that Anamanaguchi's using them. But Anamanaguchi did all the music for Scott Pilgrim, so people are like, wow, this is such a good cover of that Scott Pilgrim song. And it's like, yeah, it sounds like the game soundtrack too. So it's like this little cute thing they did, like after all these years, they made like another tie-in to Scott Pilgrim universe, because their sound is so entrenched in that Scott Pilgrim game. Like when you listen to other Anamanaguchi songs, it's like, wow, it's like if you like the Scott Pilgrim game, here's more of that kind of style. And the Scott Pilgrim soundtrack is way too good, because Anamanaguchi, I didn't know it at the time, but they're the best in the business, man. Like when it comes to chiptune style music, they just fucking nail it. I seriously think they're the best. They were my introduction, and then listening to more chiptunes music and like stuff like that, I was like, no, these guys are already the best. Like they're like the best in the business. So they're legends. Everyone like, and they're probably the most popular. They're probably the only like chiptunes band that really reached outside of their just little niche community. And yeah, I can't say enough praises for them. They've really inspired me in general, and that game is just perfect. You know, that game has so many good elements going for it. It had this really cool, the art style, the artist did all the sprites. He used to do like a bunch of crazy like fucked up Adult Swim art. Like he makes a lot of like crazy like bloody pixel art and stuff like that. So it's like you have all these underground people, you know, Anamanaguchi, him, and then this book is based off of an indie book that turned to a movie directed by Edgar Wright. So like, and if you don't know Edgar Wright, he's famous for doing like Shaun of the Dead and more recently Baby Driver. So he's kind of like a god. And it's funny because when you watch his other movies before Scott Pilgrim, he's doing these like zippy action shots, just like he did for Scott Pilgrim. That's how Hot Fuzz and Shaun of the Dead are both done. And yeah, I love his work. I think he's just a phenomenal director. And Scott Pilgrim was fantastic. We all loved it, right? Well, it has its haters, but even if you hate the movie and you don't even like the books, I personally like the books. I think the book's better than the movie. even if you don't like all that stuff, you gotta admit the game is just phenomenal. It's one of the most fun beat 'em up games I've ever played, and so coming from someone who's played so many retro beat 'em up games, this game and the fact that it pays tribute to so many retro games is just like it's just super fun. And playing it with 4 players or even 3 players or even 2 players is a blast. And then playing because it has RPG elements, playing it 1 player is still like a very satisfying experience. But to me, beat 'em ups are best played with groups of people. Of course, River City Girls took a lot of inspiration from Scott Pilgrim, but for a while, Scott Pilgrim was like the king of beat 'em ups. And after replaying it, I still agree. Like it's still one of the best beat 'em up games ever created ever, and it's based off of an IP. It's what do you call it? It's a licensed game, but it's one of the best licensed games ever created. And it has its own group of fans, of course, but a little game came out that kind of, in my opinion, dethroned Scott Pilgrim. And even after playing the re-release, I still think this new game is the best beat 'em up of all time. Now, if you remember, I said my favorite beat 'em up wasn't Streets of Rage 2, and it wasn't Ninja Turtles Arcade, it was Final Fight 3. But Streets of Rage 4 has got to be the best beat 'em up ever created. It just has the most tight combos and control I've ever played in any beat 'em up ever. Like it's just, and I love that your super meter drains your health, but it makes it so it's like it turns this green health that you can actually replenish. If you just don't take damage, your health will go back up. So it really rewards you for doing these really high energy combos. And the characters all play so different and unique. Now, the one thing about Streets of Rage 4 is that it's hard to keep players coming back if they have nothing to unlock. And there's no moves to buy at the shop. There's no leveling up your strength and whatnot. The game is based completely off your own skill. But what I like about that is it brings a different kind of style to the table. Something reminds me of like Sonic, where it's like if you know all the tools at your disposal, you can just start kicking ass from the start. So your real learning curve and everything, your real what do you call it? Just unlocking knowledge. Your progress is unlocking knowledge. And so once you beat the game a second time, you're going to be absolutely annihilating those early stages compared to when you first played it, where you were just like fumbling around, still learning how to play the game. I mean, Streets of Rage 4, it really is just like such a fantastic and fun game with very different characters. And the fact that it's 4-player, 2-player online, sadly, but the 4-player adds a lot to it. I really enjoy playing as like Axel's the best character in the game because of his combos with his super moves. They just make his combo potential insane. You could just like start shredding up bosses, but he's not good at crowd control. That's when you have a character like Blaze who can really like, take out everyone, and that's really fun. But then you have also like the really fast character. I forgot her name, but she's one of the original character's daughter. She has a guitar. She's probably my second favorite character. But when I'm playing with a group of friends, and if I'm playing by myself, I usually play Axel. But when I'm playing with a group of friends, I'll often pick the big guy with robot arms, because his super moves let him like stretch his arms out and grab people and bring them close. And so having that kind of powerhouse on your team is super fun. Again, and then you unlock even more characters. There's DLC characters now, but some of the characters you unlock are straight up from the old Streets of Rage games. And the characters from Streets of Rage 1 don't have the combo potential, so to make up for that, they're just really strong. So if you're bad at doing the combos, you're not even that good at the game, you could just play as this old pixely 16-bit character. And it's really fun to have like a mix and match of all these different characters on screen. There's so many different play styles, again, because everyone plays so differently. The Streets of Rage 3 characters even have more tools at their disposal that kind of, like, Streets of Rage 3 Axel is actually probably better than Streets of Rage 4 Axel, which is kind of crazy to think about. But they did not skip out. They did not take those old characters and make them, like, play a certain way. No, if you play as a Streets of Rage 3 character, or Streets of Rage 2 character, or Streets of Rage 1 character, you are now basically playing that Streets of Rage. You are basically now playing that game instead of playing Streets of Rage 4. So the fact that they have all those different playstyles in one game, that is why that game kicks ass. I still think Streets of Rage 4 characters are all the best. I know I just said Axel, Streets of Rage 3 is technically better, but that's what I think. I also like that depending on what weapons characters get, certain characters actually are better with certain weapons than other characters. So stuff like that, like again, like Streets of Rage, just it's such a beautiful game. So and again, like, hey, you're playing. You have two guys who are good at Streets of Rage 4. You got your older friend who is only good at Streets of Rage like 2 or 3 or something. He can just play that character. But then you have someone who's not that good. They can play the Streets of Rage 1 character, or they can just play as like a big guy and just not care. You know, it's there's so much to it. It's the best beat 'em up, the best one. Now, this studio that made Streets of Rage 4, they've made a lot of other games based off of retro games. Right now, they're actually working on the Metal Slug Tactics game because they actually are responsible for porting some of the older Metal Slug games. These modern Metal Slug games that we know are done by them. So they've done a lot of great stuff in their past, based off of like older beat 'em up style games and retro games. So it's like, when I heard that this same studio that is doing Streets of Rage 4 is doing the new Ninja Turtles game, something clicked in my head. And I could already see that these characters have a super meter that leads to doing a super attack. Now, super attacks were in the original Ninja Turtles, but they never had the Streets of Rage style super meters or combo potential. And when you watch people playing all this new gameplay footage of the new Turtles game, you're starting to see like really cool move sets. You're starting to see like characters doing like Dragon Punch style kicks where they're just doing a straight up like high attack into the air, then leading that into a dive kick. There's team attacks where characters are like taking their shells and slamming a foot soldier's head between them, from just like the old movies, the old live action movies. There's a lot going on here. There's voice acting, and certain characters will say certain things to specific bosses, and we know there's supposed to be a whole bunch of bosses. We know that it has the voices from the original show for all their characters, and we know that April and Splinter are going to be playable. Now, they've said they have no plans to do DLC, but they did do DLC for Streets of Rage 4, so it is possible. They said there's just going to be the 6 characters. Now, when the game comes out, we'll know if there's a secret character to unlock. And boy, would it be cool. The thing is, if I had to think of like what secret character they could do, honestly, the best option for me is honestly Shreddar. Not because like, oh, I love playing a Shreddar, but like, it's just kind of weird to have all these different playable characters in a Turtles game and then not have Shreddar playable. But like, obviously doing him as DLC wouldn't like make sense, and having him be unlocked from the start wouldn't make sense, but having Shreddar be a boss character would actually be pretty dope. Or it would be like a secret character for beating the game would be pretty dope. But I don't think they're going to do a secret character at all. I think they're being honest. I don't think they would lie about this. But people keep asking if Casey Jones is going to be playable. That's because he's popular in the 2000s cartoon and he's in the movies. And honestly, he's popular in the original comic book. He's kind of an important character in Ninja Turtles lore. But I just don't think they're going to do that because this game is mostly based off of the 89 cartoon. And Casey Jones didn't really exist in that cartoon. Like, he's in like a few episodes, but he's not really like a main character in that show. Whereas in the 2000 show and in the Nickelodeon show, you see Casey Jones a lot. So it just depends on which iteration, and the 89 Turtles is the most popular iteration, but I think what people are learning is that that's not the only version that matters. You know, people love all the versions of the Turtles. It's just, when you think of Turtles, you think of the 89 version. So either way, and that's why a lot of times we benefit from having the Turtles be their own incarnations, just doing their own thing, like some of the games do sometimes, but this is going to be very much so based off the 89 cartoon. So, but back to what I was saying, how this game is going to be the best one. Now, it seems like there's a story mode with a world map. And in this world map, you go back and forth between different levels. And I could be wrong, but I heard there's some way to level up and get perks and stuff like that. If that's the case, then this game looks like it's going to play more similarly to Streets of Rage 4, but still have a lot of elements borrowed and shared from the Scott Pilgrim beat 'em up. So it seems like their direction is to take the action and gameplay from the old Ninja Turtles beat 'em ups and combine that with probably the two best beat 'em ups of all time, Scott Pilgrim and Streets of Rage 4. If that's what they're trying to do, and it's made by the people who made Streets of Rage 4, if that's what they're trying to do here, then the potential for this to be the greatest beat 'em up game of all time and giving that title rightfully back to the Ninja Turtles, I mean, we have the potential here for something really beautiful and special. And I'm ready for it. I'm ready for this Ninja Turtles game. So that's all I really came here to say, is that people might be sleeping on this game. I'm probably more excited for this than I am a lot of other games coming out later this year. To me, I don't care if a game is, an indie game or a retro style game. I don't automatically think that an open world 3D game is better than retro style games. In fact, quite the opposite. If you notice, the thing about fighting game players is that fighting games are a retro style game in itself. I mean, it's one-on-one fighters in 2D. You could make a lot of these same games just with worse graphics on inferior consoles. They just happen to have better graphics nowadays. And don't get me wrong, I love how good these games look on the current console. I mean, Guilty Gear and Dragon Ball FighterZ are just so beautiful and even Smash Ultimate just looks amazing and it has all these characters. You probably couldn't make a game like Smash Ultimate even on GameCube or Wii. You probably do need as much extra space as possible to have all these characters and all these stages. So I'm thankful for modern gaming, but I'm just saying, when it comes to retro style games versus modern games, I don't see why anyone should automatically assume that a modern game is going to be better than a retro game. I mean, that's how I feel about Metroid Dread as well. I think Metroid Dread is, probably the game of the year last year. So, I mean, what do you want me to say? The game was perfect, and it was such a great sequel to Metroid games. So, I just, that's what I feel. So I'm really excited for this game. I think this game's going to be one of my favorites this year. I still think that Elden Ring is one of the greatest games of all time, and it happened to come out this year. But Shreddar's Revenge is going to be a special game. It's quite possibly going to be the best beat 'em up game of all time. So, I mean, here we have it. And it's coming out this summer. It's almost summer. They're releasing a lot of footage for it lately. I feel like the game's right around the corner. I have no idea why they haven't released the release date yet, why they haven't announced it. I have no clue, but it's right around the corner, guys, and I think this game's going to be a really good one. That being said, that's really all I have to say today.